Good morning and welcome to Apex Online Racing. We're here today for round number 4 of the AOR Oceania season here on PS4. We're in Singapore, a very difficult street circuit, one of our few night races on the calendar. My name is Alex, although some of you might know me as Curly, and I'll be your broadcaster this evening. I do have a commentator with me this week, who I'm very happy to have on board. Commentator is Kid Byers. Byers, how are you?
Not too bad, Curly. Great to be here, and always a fantastic race, this one. No doubt about that, here at the Marina Bay Street Circuit. Highly track, but hopefully we might get a very good race tonight, and no doubt it's going to be an interesting result, no matter what.
Yeah, very difficult technical circuit. The curbs are quite high. It's the longest race in terms of time on the calendar. We're likely to be here for around about an hour tonight, even longer if it rains. So this really is the closest thing to a sort of endurance that we have in Formula One. Very hot conditions normally as well, although it's not too much of a problem for the drivers here, as we're not actually in the cars themselves. But that can have an effect on the car's handling. Pyrus, do you want to take us through a rundown of who we have on the grid, and then we'll get these guys over to the track?
Yes, I certainly can, Curly. And for the Mercedes AMG Petronas Formula One team, it's Pure Eye Contrast and JH999, and the Scuderia Ferrari team of Dubsy and Maznat, the two Aussies there for the Scuderia. Minutes on to Red Bull Racing with Jordan Dittmer 711 and Infinite March 96. The Kiwi in the Red Bull, along with Williams, Banana Josh 1 and Nemo. And for Force India, it's Prying, Stingray and Dynamite. And then over to the Haas F1 team, or I should say McLaren, it's VT1 DOHC. And for Sauber, that's pretty much it for tonight's lineup, so looking good.
Yeah, just to make all the viewers aware, we do have some spaces still available on the grid, so if you want to get involved here at AOR, make sure you go and sign up and get that in quickly before the spaces are filled. Alright, we'll go ahead and hit spectate here, and that'll let the drivers and coordinators know that we're ready to get started. I do believe that we also have one driver, I think that's Excalibur, is going to try and make it, but he's going to be running a little bit late tonight. He's not sure if he'll make it by the end of qualifying, but hopefully he does, so that he can be on the grid for the start of the race. I'm just going to take you through a quick run through the drivers and constructors standings. We are just at round 4 here in Singapore. Reason that it's only round 4 is because the season started halfway through, just to keep things in line with the European leagues. So leading the Drivers' Championship at the moment, we've got the Ferrari driver Dubsy with 52 points. He's been on the podium twice, and he did win the first race in Hungary. Following him is actually his teammate Maznat. He's in second with 43, and then we got MLJH in third with 97 points, very closely followed by VTI with 36. He in particular looked very impressive in qualifying at Monza. iContrast is in 5th with 18 points, followed by Nemo, who's in 6th with 12. Then we got Infinite March with 8th, Dynamite with 6. Prying Stingray has picked up 4 points, Loaf Meat with 2, and Banana Josh with 1. So yeah, Excalibur yet to pick up a point. Hopefully he's able to make it into the lobby this evening so that he can get some points on the board for himself. And then we will also have a quick run through the constructors. Ferrari leading the way, 95 points for them. They're quite a long way out in front. Then we got a close battle for second place. Mercedes with 55 points, Force India with 50, McLaren with 38, and then a little bit of a drop back down to the final two teams at the moment. Red Bull and Williams have 18 and 13. The other cars yet to score because they don't have the drivers in them at the moment, but hopefully those seats can be filled relatively soon. So Byers, you've done some commentary before, but not necessarily with motorsport. What are you looking forward to most of all tonight, would you say?
Look, it's a very interesting race. Obviously, heading into the esports world of Formula One is something very new for me here on the PlayStation 4 and the AOR League. But look, it's always an interesting race. This one, of course, if we get a bit of rain, it can throw up some interesting results. But I think the secret here is to just keep your nose clean, you know, not get involved in any incidents, try and avoid any time penalties if possible, and just manage to keep your nose clean and hopefully pick up a point, a podium, or even a win around here.
Yeah, so I do have just a quick confirmation from one of the drivers on the grid. We are apparently going to have some rain at the end of the race, so that will spice things up at the very end, but I think this causes some interesting questions in terms of strategy. Depending on when that rain falls, we might see some drivers hang back a little bit in qualifying, maybe even go to a harder compound of tyre and perhaps look for going to take those tires all the way to the rain. Although if it's in the very final laps, you probably wouldn't want to attempt that. But it's something to keep in mind for the drivers here, that there may be more strategy at play, as we've actually had two Force Indias come together on the outlap there. And I'm not quite sure what all of that is about. That's a fairly rookie error there from Prying Stingray and his teammate Dynamite. They've just come together going through turn 4, and that's not the way that you want to start off your race night.
No, it's never a good start, is it, Curly, when you see two teammates coming together like that? And, well, it's quite reminiscent of real life, isn't it? Esteban Ocon and Sergio Perez having a few incidents throughout the 2017 Formula One season. But, well, hopefully their team boss will let them race. But if they're going to race like that, they'll want to be a little bit more careful coming into tonight.
Yeah, and this is, we just watched Dynamite hit the inside wall coming across the bridge, but he's going to have to come back in the pits, and this is a serious problem here at Singapore. This is one of the longest laps on the calendar, and if you're now going to have to come back into the pits, you're probably only going to get one run done in qualifying, because it takes such a long time to do an outlap, and then to actually get back around and start a lap. I think that he's in severe trouble now of only having the one chance in qualifying, because it's only the 12-minute session, so he's going to be in trouble. But I am going to hop on board with the driver that's first on track at the moment, and that is Banana Josh in the Williams. And I'll take you on a lap round Marina Bay here with Banana Josh. He had a decent race, you'd say, in Monza. He was maybe not quite so comfortable at that circuit, lacked a little bit of pace compared to the front runners, but had a solid finish and some good battling, especially with I think it was Dynamite there. But he's coming through turn 3 now, just picking up quite a lot of curb. A little bit tentative through his run through the first complex, now down into 4. This is a corner you've really got to focus on the exit, because it comes onto the longest straight of the calendar. And Banana Josh, he's done a pretty good job there to get a good run out of that corner. Now we're down to turn 7, and he's run a little bit wide through that apex. I don't think that will have invalidated the lap, as we're coming into the more technical area of the track. Bring the car back across to the right. You're looking for that black box up there just to throw the car into here. And yeah, he's very, very tentative. So Banana Josh maybe not looking too confident at the moment with this circuit. It is, in my opinion, probably the most difficult track on the calendar to learn. Probably second only in terms of difficulty to drive to Monaco. So yeah, very, very tough circuit. And Banana Josh, he's negotiated the bridge section quite well. Now he's coming down towards the 3rd sector, heavy braking into this right-hander. That's a nice line through there, and he's on the super soft tires now. This is interesting, because that rain towards the end of the race, the super soft tires might do, maybe 20 laps. If that rain comes down around about, lap sort of 17, 18, if somebody is starting on the super soft tires, they won't have to pit, and that could be a pretty big strategy advantage for them. But here we go, Banana Josh coming towards the final corner. Huge lag spike on my screen for me, apologies about that. But he does come across the line, and he sets a 1:41.9. Byers, who are you on board with as we watch Jordan go straight on?
Well, interesting. We saw both Force Indias there who were involved in that incident. They both came back into the pits to repair their damage, but now Prying Stingray is currently on his outlap as the other Force India comes out as well. But riding on board with Infinite March 96 as he's on the ultra soft tyres, or he gets it all wrong coming around this last sector, and the back end steps out as Dubsy sets the fastest lap currently in this session, a 1:37.736, and that is roughly 7/10 ahead of MLJH, who is currently on his hot lap as well. So it's going to be interesting to see, Curly, you mentioned earlier on the chance of rain coming later in the race. Is there an option to start on the softer tyres and maybe run through and one stop if indeed we do see some rain? But it seems that most of the drivers currently tonight fitting the ultra soft or the super soft tyres, hopefully looking to get a head start, get away from any possible incidents early in the race.
Yeah, it's going to be a difficult decision. It really depends when that rain comes down. And of course, you know, you've got a general idea from your screens inside the pit lane, but you're not going to know exactly what lap it'll come. So, you know, if it's kind of, if it's very, very late in the race, I think you definitely want to be starting on those ultra softs because everybody's going to have to make one stop to get to that point. But, I mean, if you were in normal dry conditions, you would generally look to do a one-stop strategy around here. A pretty typical strategy would be to go for the ultra softs and then pit. And not too long into the race, maybe lap sort of 8 or 9, and then take the soft compound tires all the way to the end. I do know that an ultra soft, super soft strategy is possible, but you've got to be quite kind to the tires to do that. So yeah, it really just comes down to when that rain is going to fall, because if it's in the very final laps, then I think you're best off just sticking with the strategy you planned for the dry. But if it's close to that midpoint in the race, you may want to consider a harder compound of tires to start the race on.
No doubt about that, as we're just riding on board now with Prying Stingray in the Force India after that incident we spoke about earlier on in the qualifying session. He's looking on the super soft tyres to set a quick lap here, Curly, and there was a yellow in Sector 3. There was a Red Bull of Jordan Dittmer off earlier on, but I don't think that's going to affect Prying Stingray as he comes round this last sector as we head towards... He's already gone over the Anderson Bridge, now heading into turns 13, 14. Here we go now. He's currently looks pretty good, pretty handy coming around this last section. He's going to come under the bridge. And where is this going to put Prying Stingray in the Force India? Just 4.5 minutes to go in this session, so he can do another run, but he will want to conserve those tyres, like we mentioned, for now 1:35.36. He crosses the line, DRS open, and it's a 1:38.687. And a pretty handy lap there. That puts him up into 4th position on the super soft tyres. Not a bad effort there, Curly, from Prying Stingray.
Yeah, it's a really, really solid lap time, and I've got to say I was on board for most of that lap. It looked like a very good effort there from Prying Stingray, and being up in that sort of top group on harder compounded tires is definitely going to give him an advantage, I would say, in the race, because, you know, even if that rain does come late, if you can keep yourself up with that lead group on the super softs as that first stint starts to come to an end, you will be considerably quicker, and you'll be able to start making moves up the field, although this is not an easy track to overtake at. I mean, you know, with F1 2017 as well, the overtaking in this game is very difficult, so grip position here is crucial. As if we've got Infinite March crossing the line, he improves to 7th place. And we hop on board with is Jordan on a lap. I think he's just made a fairly big mistake. Yes, he's missing half of his front wing, in fact, so he's going to be in real trouble now because he's sitting in 10th place. And he's got only half a front wing, so he's now going to make a decision to try and come back into the pits and then probably go back out again to see if, you know, he can get another run in, but I don't know if he's going to have time to do that. He's going to have some fairly considerable trouble with this Red Bull as well. Do we know if Prying Stingray is on for another lap? It does look like he is. He is in the max fuel mode, so we will watch him cross the line, see if he's able to improve on this 1:38.6. Perhaps jumps off further up the field. No, he comes into the pits. So that will be probably qualifying over for Prying Stingray.
Might be an option too, Curly, for Jordan. Like you mentioned, he seems to be struggling, obviously, with damage to his Red Bull car. And is he going to come into the pits? No, he's electing to stay out, which is very odd as he comes across the line, because it might have been an option to maybe pit while he had the time and who knows, go on to a soft compound of tyre, maybe try and come through the field from you know, the back row of the grid possibly. But it looks like he's going on another lap here, but maybe just trying to improve his position on the grid on the ultra soft tyres, you'd have to suspect. Yeah,
it looks to be the case. We got most of the drivers out now winding themselves up for another lap. Interestingly enough, we've got Dynamite in the Force India. He's just coming out of the pits now. He's going to struggle actually to get around for another lap. It'll be very close for him. Let's hop on board with Nemo. He showed some really good pace in Monza. I believe he qualified on the front row there. And this Williams, he's got a bit of work to do. He's currently a little bit, well, just under 3 seconds off of what Dubsy has done for provisional pole. So we'll stay on board for Nemo as he's come down towards turn 1. You're looking for that black box up there on the right. Just after that is your braking point. Really throw it in. Nemo looking actually fairly cautious through the first complex of corners there. He's maybe not gotten the banker lap that he wanted. He's quite a long way down, so he's going to be really focusing on just not making any mistakes in this lap and just ensuring that it's clean, because this should be his last opportunity. Plenty of other guys on their final laps as well, but we will stay on board with Nemo before hopping off to other drivers. Yeah, this is looking like a very sort of solid, smooth lap, but he's not really pushing the boundaries of the circuit too hard. He's giving plenty of room to all of the walls. So yeah, I think this is, you know, a few drivers around here maybe just lacking the confidence to really push the car. It's so easy just to make a mistake and clip a wall, and that's your qualifying effectively over. Nemo with a great apex through the hairpin, now coming across down into the third sector, and this is well the tightest and most technical section of track just coming up here. Great apex and a good exit as well for Nemo. This is looking to be quite solid. He should be able to get himself fairly far up the field with this, although he has missed the apex slightly there. Now coming down under the bridge. Got to find a braking point there. He turns in, but he's giving these walls a lot of space. So Nemo coming now to the final couple of corners. Oh, almost loses the rear end of the car coming out of the penultimate corner. Really got to throw it into that final corner. Come across the line, he goes P6. Who else have we got on a lap? I'm going to hop on board VTI. He was absolutely rapid in qualifying in Monza. He's now coming through the first sector. I think he's someone that will be looking to challenge that front row, though he has run a little bit deep here now. Who else have we got on laps? Spires, have we got anybody that's just about to cross the line?
I can tell you we've got Dubsy on a very nice looking hot lap here once again. He's currently on pole position by over half a second, and his fuel's pretty low. He's running on fumes at the moment, but he comes around the last few corners. Can he improve on his time of 1:37.736 in the Ferrari? He's currently on provisional pole position. Can he go one better and go quicker than a 1:37.7? Yes, he has. A stunning lap from Dubsy in the Ferrari. 1:37.490. So you'd have to say, Curly, if nothing else, he's definitely taking the psychological advantage heading into to this race. He was already on pole position.
He's only a tenth slower. Very close between the two Ferraris there. Now we've got VTI getting right up to the wall through the penultimate corner. Really throws it into this final corner. That is an absolutely perfect line, but he does go third. He's not quite able to match those Ferraris, and that is all of our drivers across the line in this qualifying session. But yeah, phenomenal stuff from Dubsy. That's a very impressive time from him. Maznat getting quite close, but yeah, after this top three there's a fairly big drop down to eye contrast. He's sitting in the low 38, so yeah, I mean, Dubsy, Maznat and VTI were our top three in Monza, and it looks like they're really setting the pace for the field so far this season.
Everybody leaving, it was very interesting during that, later in that qualifying session, everybody electing to leave their run quite late, maybe when the track had rubbered up. But there's the final results, Curly, on your screen now.
Yeah, so our starting grid for the Singapore Grand Prix, Dubsy on pole, fantastic lap. Maznat just a tenth behind him. He starts in second. Then we got VTI in third, Eye Contrast in fourth. MLGH will start fifth, and alongside him on the grid is Prying Stingray on those super soft tires. Interesting strategy choice. Nemo in seventh, Infinite March in eighth. We got Banana Josh in ninth, and Jordan, who had a fairly disappointing qualifying session, he's in 10th. And the final driver we have on the grid, Dynamite, he elected not to qualify, so I'm assuming that this is a strategy play from him. I also believe that we have had one of our later drivers join the session. So yeah, we can see we've got two more drivers in now. So Loaf Meat and Excalibur have joined us for the race. They were running a little bit late, but they are now in the lobby. So that's good to see. They'll be able to start on brand new tires as well as Dynamite. I'm assuming that those guys might well go for a set of soft compound tires. We'll see what they choose as we just wait for the drivers to ready up here for round 4 of the AOR Oceania season, and it's been, well, the race last time in Monza was fantastic. We had a brilliant battle between the top three there, so hopefully we have more of the same here in Singapore. But this is a very difficult turn one. We saw the chaos in the actual race in 2017, so we ready ourselves now as the lights are coming on. We are at 5 lights here in Marina Bay, and it is lights out and away for round 4 of AOR Oceania, and it's a great start for the Mercedes in P4, and he's gotten a good run, but he's not quite able to make the most of it as the Ferraris hold station through the first couple of corners. Dubsy maintains the lead. We've now got Mazda coming under pressure from VTI, but he isn't quite close enough to make a move down into turn 4. No, Mazda cuts it off. So we've also got a couple cars going side by side. That's MLJH. He is battling away with Prying Stingray, and I believe the Prying Stingray has got the move done. So that's a position there for the Force India driver, who does appear to have a little bit of lag on his car. But here comes Nemo up the inside. Fantastic move from the Williams. Very opportunistic. Extremely late on the brakes, but he gets the move done. Brilliant stuff from Nemo. As we've also got, what's this? Banana Josh losing a couple of positions further down. He's just lost a position to Infinite March, and you know what? He's going to lose another one to Excalibur, who's had an absolutely flying start from the very back of the grid.
Yes, no doubt about that. It's an interesting start, but Dubsy, look at that. The two Ferraris there sneaking away, managing to avoid any contact. It's always a hectic lap one here at the Marina Bay circuit in Singapore. But Dubsy, that lead almost up to a second, and he'll be very shortly out of DRS range come lap 3. As there's a yellow in Sector 2 then. Has there been contact? No, it looks like everybody's going through cleanly as we ride on board with the Renault of Loaf Meat 1, who's gained 4 positions from 12th to 8th on the ultra soft tyres, but it looks like a pretty clean start. Everybody almost managing to get through cleanly there, Curly.
Yeah, fantastic to see. It's a very difficult turn one here in Singapore, but the drivers have made it through, so props to them for that. And we're now into the sort of long slog of the Singapore Grand Prix. It's difficult to overtake here. Really, your only opportunity is at the end of the DRS straight after turn 5. So yeah, it's a tough one. The drivers will be running fairly high downforce setups, I would imagine, at this circuit as well. Lots of low and medium speed corners. They'll have those wings cranked all the way up, especially knowing that there's rain coming as well. As Maznat, just the tail end of his car getting a little bit happy there. VTI is closing up on him, but I don't think he's going to be quite close enough to make a move. No, he isn't. This lead group, well, Dubsy's pulled 1.3 seconds, but I think the gap is starting to stabilize a little bit. VTI right behind Maznat, really putting on the pressure. He looks to have some good pace around here in the race. He's actually got a much better run, and he may have a look at Maznat coming down towards the bridge section. No, he's not. Maznat just able to keep his car ahead there, but VTI putting a lot of pressure on. I do also believe we got some movement further back. What has happened to...
further down the field, Curly, sorry to interrupt, but we've had a Renault come in to the pits. Loaf Meat 1 has made a stop, and not a bad move going onto the soft tyres, with rain possibly coming a little bit later on. And also the Williams of Banana Josh is into the wall, and well, that's not very good for him at all, and he'll try and stay ahead of the Renault, but it's not looking good for the Williams at this stage. And we've also got Jordan in the Red
sorry,
Bull
here comes Excalibur around the
lane.
outside of Infinite March. Infinite March just making a mistake there in the third sector, and Excalibur takes that position. Pretty easy move for him. I think Infinite March just locked up a little bit going into that right-hander there, so Excalibur, he's up 5 positions now into P8. So we got VTI very, very close to Maznat still. He's really putting the pressure on. Beautiful apex through turn 1 there, as we do ride on board with him coming through the third corner now down towards turn 5. This is absolutely crucial. You can see VTI using every single inch of track that he's possibly able to on the entry to that corner, and that'll enable him to get a better exit. He should have the DRS available. He does, but he has a little look down the inside, but no, he's not going to go for it just yet. Just really putting the pressure on the Ferrari driver. He's now going to try and go up the inside. No, VTI just playing it safe. He's just really piling the pressure on Maznat, hoping that he's going to make some kind of mistake. But yeah, he looks incredibly quick around here in his McLaren. Definitely one to watch out for this evening. Now, we don't know exactly when this rain is going to come. I'm sure the drivers may have a little bit more information on that than us, but yeah, it really could come at any time. We know that the pre-race forecasts are not completely accurate, so which is just need to watch out for that as Dynamite has gone another position. He is up past Infinite March. He does seem to be going backwards a little bit. But yeah, Dynamite goes up into 9th, and he's on the super soft compound tires as well. So a couple of those guys starting a little further back. We've got Banana Josh on the softs now coming out of the pits. Jordan's on the softs, but he's into another wall. He seems to really be struggling around this circuit. But yeah, currently our super soft runners, Prying Stingray, we got Dynamite there on the super softs, and we got Loaf Meat on the super softs. They're going to be looking to run maybe to the rain. I'm not sure if they'll make it, but I think that at least one of them will try. Is Dubsy yet again the fastest lap of the race, a 41.8. That's a phenomenal time, and he's really starting to open up the gap to his teammate now. That's up at 3 seconds, and VTI, he's going to be getting maybe a little bit impatient. He's going to be, well, he's going to be pretty much desperate to get past Maznat here, because he knows if he doesn't, and Dubsy's allowed to continue extending that gap, that it's going to be too much for VTI to run down. So it's crucial for him to get a move done on Maznat. But the problem is, where do you make it? As we've also had MLJH, he's going up past Nemo again. VTI, is he close enough? Not quite. So yeah, he's putting a lot of pressure on Maznat, but Maznat dealing with it quite well. Prying Stingray also very, very close to the back of Contrast. So we've got a couple guys up here near the front that just need to find a way through. I mean, if you were driving here, Byers, whereabouts on the track would you be looking for an overtake? I mean, where do you think is the best opportunity for a move?
I think overtaking Curly always difficult on a street circuit, as we know, the likes of Monaco and here, of course. But you'd think the best position may be down into turn 1 if you can get, or if you can get good traction off of turn 3 in the DRS zone. As VTI, geez, having another look at him, and that gap all the while is extending up into P1. It's 3.4 seconds. As the Renault of Loaf Meat just getting a time penalty there for some corner cutting. But as we come through to end lap 4, he's a lot closer now, you have to say, as we come through to complete lap 4. But Maznat is almost creating this bottleneck, isn't he, with Pure Contrast and Prying Stingray. And you might call it the Maznat train at the moment as we come through to complete lap 5, Curly.
Yeah, VTI just with a mistake there through the penultimate corner, losing the rear of the car, and that's cost him an opportunity to perhaps be close enough for a move down into turn 1, but he's looking very, very quick. And another person to watch out for here is Prying Stingray, who's all over the back of Contrast, and he's on these super soft tires. He's only going to get quicker and quicker. But VTI now, Maznat's had to go defensive down into turn number 5, and they're side by side coming down along this straight. VTI will have the DRS, and he is starting to pull just ahead of Maznat. Maznat's on the inside. We'll see if he's the later breaker, and he is. Big lockup for both cars there to try pushing the absolute limit of the tires. But VTI now has the inside line for that little hairpin, and he is through on Maznat. Maznat having a look down the inside. No, that's not going to work. A little bit optimistic to try and get that move done, but VTI has found his way past. He's up into second. He's got a 4.7 second gap to Dubsy ahead of him. We'll see if he's able to start reeling that in, but now we've got Contrast joining onto the back of this. Prying Stingray with them as well. Maznat coming under a lot of pressure here in Singapore. He was quick in qualifying, very, very good lap, but he seems to be struggling in the race now. And you know, you were saying that overtaking is very, very difficult around here, and yeah, I've got to agree. You really got to wait for the car in front to make a mistake, which I believe that Maznat did out of turn 3. I think the best opportunity to overtake at this circuit is not in the well, it's not on the track. I think your best chance is in the pits, because the undercut around here is massive. So we'll see if anybody is bold enough to go for a very early pit stop. I think the pit window might open around about lap 8, but maybe someone will go earlier just to try and get out of this train. You might look at someone like Contrast, who's now tucked up behind Maznat. He can see VTI just inching away, and he's going to be quite keen to just get out of this traffic. But of course, the big point of that is you've got to make sure that you come out in free air, which I do believe there is a big pocket of free air behind Dynamite, so the undercut option is available if a driver wants it. But it just depends, are they going to be able to get those tires to the end of the race? Really is the big question for them. But for someone like Prying Stingray, he's sat here on the super softs in P5. I think he'll be quite content at the moment. These tires are only going to get better and better compared to the ultra soft, so he'll be able to make up more ground and potentially start making moves on these guys just within the next couple of laps. I would assume that. What else have we got happening? Nemo is quite close to MLGH, but he's kind of stuck sort of 5-6 tenths behind in that dirty air.
You'd have to say, as you mentioned, prying Stingray in a very, very good position behind this train of cars. Of course, behind the Ferrari of Maznat. VTI and the McLaren has been set free, but he's really not making too many inroads into that lead. He's taken a 10th out of Dubsy in P1 in the Ferrari, so it's 4.2 seconds. Very critical to cut the gap before this first round of pit stops. But you'd have to say prying Stingray and the Force India looking very good behind this train of cars and on the super soft tyres, so he'll be looking to run longer in the first stint.
Yeah, for him, he's got to be patient now, and then once these pit stops start happening from the ultra soft guys, that's when you put the engine mode up to rich. That's when you really start to push and try and make the most of that. And you know, he's got an opportunity to, you know, he runs quite wide there through the final corner. He's got an opportunity to, you know, maybe go for a set of ultra softs at the end of the session. Well, he has picked up 3-second time penalty there. It's quite easy to pick up some time penalties at this circuit. We saw that at Monza as well. Quite a few drivers picking up numerous penalties, which especially around here where, you know, overtaking is difficult and track position is so important, getting yourself penalties will really hurt you later on in the race, where you might be tucked up behind another car or they might be tucked up behind you, and you can end up losing those places on penalties. The drivers have got to do their best to keep it within the white lines here. But yeah, I mean, just, you know, prying Stingray right now is got to be, I think right now is probably when he's going to have, these super soft tires are probably starting to become faster than the ultra softs. I'd say now is the point where he needs to get his foot down and start really pressuring those guys in front of him.
No doubt. I think we've reached that crossover point, Curly, like you mentioned. Lap 7 out of 31 in this grueling AOR Singapore Grand Prix here at the Marina Bay circuit. And I can tell you one thing now, it's just interesting. You look at those gaps, 20 seconds. So the top 9 drivers down to Dynamite, all pretty close at the moment, and you have to say it's all just about when to come in and make your stop, because around here a track very difficult to pass, and you'd have to say a lot of the passing might be done due to pit stop strategy, but it is just where you come out. You cannot come out behind a slower driver on fresher tyres, because that can cause all sorts of issues. But VTI and the McLaren, he's cut that lead to 3.5 seconds, but he needs to do a lot more than that as we come across the line. Lap 8 now, we're right on board with Pure Eye Contrast. Can he make a move on Maz down into turn 1? No, he can't. And that Ferrari, that's very wide at the moment as we come through turn 4, now turn 5. This is the DRS zone, but is he going to be close enough? Will he have the better drive out of this corner? Up into, he's got standard fuel mix at the moment. He's running well under his target fuel as he turns it up to rich. DRS available now. He's well behind, and Maznat stays in P3. But like we said, just 21 seconds covering the top 9 drivers so far in this race. Lap 8 out of 31.
Yeah, strangely enough there, I don't know if it was that way on your screen, but Contrast did not have his DRS open along that straight, so I'm not sure maybe if he just forgot, or if that's perhaps a graphical glitch for me. But yeah, now Contrast is maybe starting to fall a little bit further behind Maznat. He's not quite putting the same pressure on him as he was before. And for Contrast, he's got Prying Stingray right behind him now. These Super Softs definitely looking like the better race tyre. Prying Stingray has got to start making moves. He's got to find a way past. But yeah, I was just going to bring up Maznat actually looking quite quick in a straight line. Compared to some of the other cars, not really able to get too close to him on the straights. There's only that mistake he made which allowed VTI to get past. So yeah, I think that Maznat maybe just running a slightly lower wing than some of the other guys here, which should pay dividends in terms of maintaining that track position. But this is the point now where we've got to be looking for people to maybe start pitting, and the undercut around this track is massive. It's such a long circuit with, I believe, 23 corners, as Dubsy is in the pit. So the leader, he's actually the first one to pull the trigger. That's not what you normally see. He had a large enough gap behind him that he would have maintained the lead even if VTI had gone for a pit stop earlier. But yeah, Dubsy has pulled the trigger. He's gone in. Who's this as well? MLJH. He's pitted. He was feeling the pressure from Nemo behind, who's now released, to go ahead and chase after this leading pack. But yeah, I mean, that's very interesting. Dubsy has found himself a bit of space. He's in there behind Dynamite, and now he's got to really push. And hold on a moment, Dubsy's on the ultra softs.
Well, he's gone onto the ultra soft tyres there. Sorry to interrupt, Curly, but he also had a wing change, so he may have had some damage. Whether we missed the riding on board the footage, he may have had contact with the barrier because he was out on his own, but he did have a wing change and he's onto the ultra soft tyres. Very strange decision, especially if there's rain in the air.
Yeah, either that rain is coming very, very soon, or maybe he's been planning a two-stop here. But yeah, definitely missed that sort of wing damage. I'll tell you another driver that's got some wing damage. We did just watch Prying Stingray clip a wall, and he now has a little bit of damage on the right-hand side of that front wing. So yeah, that's difficult for him. I think he's going to be looking perhaps to get a pit stop in fairly soon, although he's keeping up with Mazdan in contrast fairly well, despite the damage. So yeah, I mean, that will compromise his sort of strategy on this super soft tire. But for these guys that are tucked up in here in this battle, we'll see if any of them pit. Oh, Maznat goes on, but here we have Contrast and Prying Stingray. They are both in the pits, and I believe that Prying Stingray will probably get that front wing changed, as well as Contrast is going for an undercut on Maznat here. What does he go for? It's the super soft compound tires. Will they make it to the end? Who knows? It's quite a long way to go, as Prying Stingray held for a little while longer to get that front wing change. Now, where is Dubsy going to come out in regards to pure Contrast? Because Contrast, he's just leaving the pits now. Here comes Dubsy down into turn one. Did he have a big enough gap to make up for that wing change? Yes, so Dubsy is out in front of Contrast. But now we've got well, looking up the field to VTI, he's got to be thinking, you know, if I'm VTI right now, I think I want to be getting in the pits and trying to get sort of an overcut done on Dubsy, because Dubsy did have that front wing change, although VTI probably won't know that. But yeah, I mean, it's difficult to say, because Dubsy is going to be losing time, you know, roughly 5-6 seconds in the pits, but now he's got brand new ultra soft tires on, and the undercut is worth a couple of seconds a lap here. So yeah, if VTI doesn't pit this lap, I think he may well be behind Dubsy again. As we have some yellows in sector 2. Oh, that's contact between Banana Josh and that's a car that was lapping him, actually. Who is that? I believe that was, yeah, that was Excalibur that Banana Josh has had a moment with. So I don't think Excalibur has any damage, but Banana Josh certainly does. He's probably going to have to pit again.
So currently, and now we have the leader coming into the pits, Curly. It's the McLaren Honda down to 60 kilometres
Maznat
an
as
hour.
well.
As into the pits comes Maznat as well. He's followed him in. So after Dubsy surprisingly pulled the trigger, like we mentioned, with a wing change and a new set of ultra soft tyres, now what are they going to go on to? Maznat is changing onto the soft tyres, so he'll be looking to go right through to the end, and the McLaren also putting on the, no, in fact, putting on the super soft tyres. So, boy, this is very interesting. Where are they going to feed out? As Dubsy sets the fastest lap of 140.784.
Oh, they're going to be side by side.
Right on board. Oh, it's close. It's very close.
Oh, he's just out in front of him.
Dubsy's just got him. Just got him. So that strategy call has worked, but it's going to be interesting to see where that will be later on in terms of strategy for Dubsy, Curly, as he's on the ultras. So VTI will be able to last longer, you'd think, in that last stint.
Yeah, well, Dubsy will he will have to make at least one more pit stop in this race, as he's not used to different compounds of tires. But yeah, I mean, that's interesting in terms of strategy, because those ultra soft tires have managed to make him maintain the net lead here, as he absolutely whacks a wall. But I think his front wing is okay. But yeah, he's managed to maintain the net lead from VTI, but now VTI will not have to stop again, as Banana Josh does an interesting job of getting out of the way. He did a good job to get out of the way, but I believe he drove himself into the wall at the same time. So, oh no! There's been contact between Banana Josh and VTI has got wing damage, and that's just happened at the end of the bridge. And VTI is surely going to have to pit again. That is absolutely gutting for the McLaren driver. He was looking in the box seat, I would say, for this race. And that might be the chance of the win over for VTI. He's now got pure contrast running up behind him, but yeah, that's very, very unfortunate to see. I think that Banana Josh had, you know, he just let Dubsy through. He probably assumed that there wasn't another car coming, but VTI was there. Although, interestingly enough, VTI is VTI is carrying on even with the very significant wing damage. Contrast is going to be looking for a move fairly soon here. He doesn't go for it into turn 1, but we'll see if he is able to get a little bit closer down towards turn 4. VTI actually doing a pretty good job to get his car out of that corner there, so maybe the damage isn't looking quite as significant as I perhaps first thought. He's missing some winglets and the also I think the end plate of that wing, but it's not sort of, well, stint ending damage. He's chosen to go on, so now we'll see if VTI is able to defend. Oh, his prying Stingray has just run into the back of Contrast, and he's picked up wing damage. So yeah, it was pretty clean earlier on, but now the front wings are flying as Banana Josh has retired from the session, and he's in a wall here. That's on the exit of turn 5, going onto the straight, and he's probably understeered into that wall with some of the damage as Loafmeat gets up past Infinite March as well. But yeah, front wings going flying here in the second stint in Singapore. Prying Stingray is just constantly bumping into the back of Contrast, and now he's only got half of a wing. He'll probably be looking to pit again, especially in this traffic. Probably just get in the pits and get yourself some a set of softs or some super softs, and then a new front wing, because I don't think you're really going to make too much headway in this situation. But this is fantastic for drivers like well, Contrast, I believe, still has his full wing. He does. Maznat as well. So yeah, for those guys, and also Dubsy, I mean, that's really throwing him an opportunity to start pulling out a gap again. So yeah, VTI, just that contact with Banana Josh is well, really scuppered his race, as we do have Prying Stingray in the pits. Contrast having a look at VTI into turn 1. He's incredibly late on the brakes. He does go for the move. VTI runs wide through 2, and now Contrast not quite able to get that move done, but he is going to get a better exit out of 3 through the sort of kink of 4. Is he able to get close enough for a move down to turn 5? No, but he's going to set himself up for the straight. A little bit of oversteer there. He'll get himself back in the tow, but VTI with a much better exit, and he will maintain this position unless Contrast goes for a very late move, but he doesn't. Thinks better of it. So yeah, VTI doing a good job to defend there. Contrast, he needs to get this move done, because if he can get himself up past VTI, he's got a good chance of winning this.
No doubt about that, Curly. And the interesting thing up the front is Excalibur now, just 1.1 seconds. He started 13th on a fresh set of Ultra Softs, and it's going to be interesting to see when he will come into the pit lane for his first stop. You'd most likely say he would elect to just one stop and go on to the soft compound tyres, as it is just half a second between him and Dubsy, 1 and 2 together. Now, we've seen plenty of front wings going flying so far in the opening 13 laps of this Grand Prix, and Dubsy's going to have to be very careful here as he comes under the bridge. Oh, 3-second time penalty then for Dubsy for multiple corner cutting warnings. Something you have to be very careful of here, as he's right up behind Excalibur in the Toro Rosso. Excalibur, no doubt, on some extremely worn ultra soft tyres, and yep, in fact, he is heading into the pits this lap. So Excalibur dives off into the pit lane. Dubsy comes through to take the lead of this Grand Prix. And VTI then, we mentioned he had a bit of an incident with Banana Josh, who is out of the race, and in all fairness, he was acting like a little bit of a mobile chicane, you'd have to say, throughout the start of this race. But now it's Dubsy, and after the first round of pit stops, everyone has made at least one pit stop now, and things sorting themselves out at the front. And you have to say, it's worked out pretty well for Dubsy. He's got some clear air, and that lead is up to 5.7 seconds. As is Pure Eye Contrast going to have a go at the McLaren of VTI? No, he had DRS open, but he was a little bit further back than he was on lap 13. And Maznat then in P4 as we go down the rest of the field then. And, well, Dubsy still in that lead, 5.6 seconds now, as we see Excalibur on the super soft tyres. Curly, he's come out in 7th place, and lap 14 out of 31, so he'll be looking to work his way up the field on that one-stop strategy from P13 on the grid.
Yeah, really great first stint from Excalibur there. He's brought himself from 13th up into 7th. He's got the, I believe, the newest tyres out of this entire sort of leading group. So he will hopefully make his way up to the back of Nemo fairly soon with those fresher tyres. But Yeah, I mean, right now this is interesting. We look to have VTI. He's going to try and make it to the end, or at least make it to the rain on these tires. We haven't seen any droplets yet. We don't know when that's going to come. We have been told it's towards the end of the race, but that really could be any time after the sort of halfway mark. But he's going to try and make this one-stop work. Contrast is putting a lot of pressure on him. He's looking to get past, and then we've got Maznat just sitting behind this pair in fourth place. I believe that Maznat does have his full wing intact. He does. Contrast is yet again close to VTI, but he's finding it so hard to overtake, and I think at a circuit like this you've really got to try and set it up a couple corners before. You've got to pressure them into sort of taking a non-optimal line through one corner so that you can get an overtake done to the next. Contrast is closer now into the DRS zone, but VTI, again, like Maznat was earlier, looking to have some really solid straight line speed, and Contrast just isn't able to close the gap even with his DRS.
Well, unlike real life, Curly, you'd have to say that McLaren Honda are almost out. It's very slippery in a straight line, isn't it? It's almost outrunning the Mercedes, the power of the Mercedes-Benz engine, and that is no doubt the easiest, probably the easiest engine you have to say to compete with in real life. But here on the game, VTI is currently staying in second place, and all the while, Dubsy, that lead is continuing to grow. Up to 6.5 seconds now, halfway through this Singapore AOR Grand Prix. As down the order then, we've got Dynamite coming into the pit lane there, electing to go onto the soft tyres. He was running slowly through the last sector here on lap 15, so no doubt just maybe some wing damage, an incident. He seemed to be all on his own, but he's on the soft tyres, looking to go through to the end. As Pure Eye Contrast, he still can't quite make a move. Can he get it done into the next lap, lap 16 out of 31? And he's just, that engine just not getting the job done at the moment, is it, Curly? You'd have to say, as they come through to complete the lap. Oh, he's got a good exit off the final turn here. He'll have DRS. Can he get the job done down into turn one? VTI looks to take the inside line, and no, he can't get through. Down to turns 1, 2, and 3 here in Singapore. He's very close. And VTI keeps switching between the soft and the super soft tyres on my screen. That could be a glitch here on F1 2017, but he's a lot closer. He's got good drive out of turn 5. DRS, the fuel mix up into Rich. Now, can he get the job done? Down into turn 6. Will he go down the inside? VTI holds his line again. They lock up the wheels, and he still can't quite manage to get through, Curly.
Yeah, VTI definitely playing something with a setup here. Incredibly quick in a straight line. Contrast just not able to get the move done, and he needs to be looking to try and get this done fairly soon, because those soft tires are going to be better than his super softs. We know that Contrast did pit earlier. I believe it was lap 10 that he came into the pits with this set of super softs. So for him, will he actually make it to the end? I'm not even sure. He might have gone for a more aggressive strategy, and he's just hoping for some rain right now, but I think he's got to be looking to make a move somewhere different. He's not really able to get it done in the straight, so he's got to be looking to be later on the brakes into a corner, and just really try and set it up perhaps through one of the slower sections. It's very difficult to overtake that way, but it is possible when the car in front is lacking a little bit of that front downforce, which we know the VTI is. And for Maznat in fourth, I think that he's really just got to play somewhat of a patient game. We'll see if Contrast has to make a second pit stop. I'm not sure if he'll make it to the end on these super softs, but even if he is able to, those tires will start to degrade and fall off compared to the softs sooner rather than later. So for Maznat, he's just got to keep himself out of trouble, make sure he doesn't pick up any sort of penalties, make sure he keeps his car completely intact, and then start to push later on, and really put those guys in front of him under pressure. He's just kind of holding station just within the DRS right now, but he's doing what he needs to. And for Dubsy up front, he's got another pit stop to make, and he's only 7.7 seconds ahead. He will have a lot of work to do after his second stop.
No doubt about that, and gee, this battle between VTI and the McLaren and Pure Contrast in the Mercedes is just keeping Maznat interested, isn't he? Isn't it really, when you think about it? He's on the soft compound tyres, like you mentioned, Curly. If he can just keep the car out of the barriers, avoid any time penalties, he's looking quite good. I mean, if he's got no time penalties, who knows what VTI and Pure Contrast could have ahead of them. But like we mentioned, Dubsy, that lead now out to 8 seconds, and despite the fact he's got to make another pit stop, as Curly mentioned, the regulation stating you must use 2 compounds of tyre alongside the Ultra Soft. For those of you who are new to Formula One, hello and welcome. As well, this train now, is there an option, Curly, to come in if you're one of these 3, maybe not so much Maznat, but Pure Contrast, held up behind VTI, doesn't seem to have the straight line speed he needs in that Mercedes, although he is looking a little bit closer on this lap, but well, it's just too far at the moment, you'd have to say, as VTI cuts the lead back to Dubsy to 7.7 seconds as they come through to complete lap 18 into lap 19. Pure Contrast will have DRS again, but he is too far back as there's a yellow in sector 3. It looks like one of the Williams cars of Nemo there. He's made a mistake in the last sector, and he looks to be coming into the pit lane to repair that damage. So he's almost hit the pit wall, the pit entrance there. So not good news for Nemo, and he's in the pits at the moment, and he'll be looking to put on the ultra soft tyres, no doubt, and run through to the end of the race as we head back to that lead battle. And I reckon VTI, it's very close between Pure Contrast and VTI as the Mercedes-Benz driver locks up, and he's still just that ever so close yet ever so far, Curly. And well, it's one of those tough ones. There's a bit of a gap behind him, but just not enough time, you have to say, to come into the pits once again and then come out and try and chase him down.
We got to move here. Loafmeat just getting himself up past Dynamite. Loafmeat just pitting for those ultra soft tires. Dynamite trying to fight it back. He is on the softs, even though it's showing ultras on my screen. And Dynamite's actually held that around the outside in the third sector. Phenomenal defensive work. Loafmeat almost had the move completely done, but wasn't able to get himself slowed down, and has given that position back to Dynamite. And it's just a little battle further down. And yeah, I mean, Loafmeat on these brand new ultra soft tires, he'll be looking for another move, perhaps into turn 1. He's so much faster through the final corner than Dynamite, and here we go down towards turn 1. The Force India goes defensive. Here comes the Renault, possibly going to try and go around the outside. No, he brakes a little earlier and lets Dynamite go through. Maybe he's going to set it up for the DRS straight. It's very, very wide through turn 3, but those tires giving him much better traction. Very early on the brakes as well, but that has actually caused Dynamite to run a little bit deep, and now he's going to be coming under fire along this straight. Loafmeat, he's much quicker in a straight line than the Force India. He's going to try and go around the outside again. Is he going to hold it all the way around the outside? He does. Dynamite is not really able. He has a little look, but no, that's not going to work. So Loafmeat up into 9th place ahead of Dynamite there. Difficult move for him. Dynamite made it very, very tough, but he has gotten it done.
Enough about that, and as we head back to the front drivers now, and I tell you what, Maznat getting very, very close to Pure Contrast in the Mercedes-Benz. We said it only moments ago on the soft tyres, so he won't have any issues with tyre wear towards the end of this race as we head in to the last third of this race. Pure Contrast there coming under the, or over the bridge I should say, getting it a little bit wrong there, and Maznat possibly, can he have a look at him? No, he can't, as the, I tell you what, the McLaren 2nd, 3rd and 4th all running together, and within a couple of seconds of each other as Dubsy. When is he going to pit? You'd have to say, in terms of strategy, that is the next big question in this AOR Singapore Grand Prix. He hasn't run any other compound apart from the ultra soft tyres, so he will need to run either the soft, or you'd have to say the more likely option for him at this moment would be the super soft tyres. As we look further down the field then, Dynamite in 10th place, and well, he Loafmeat ahead of him in the Renault. Great move and a fantastic bit of commentary there from Curly, getting the job done when he needed to. But now the big question, with 11 laps to go, when is Dubsy going to come in? And he's not getting any slower, is he, Curly?
Well, the problem for him is he needs to be making up ground on this group with another pit stop to go, and for him, if he boxes now, he will come out in 5th place behind MLJH, so he'll have to get a move done on the Mercedes driver before he can actually catch up to this front pack again. So for Dubsy, he's running these tires quite long. He's been on them for I think about 11-12 laps now. We saw that Excalibur was able to get them 13 at the start of the race. Now with a little less fuel, he might be able to take them sort of maybe 14 laps is what he'll get out of them in total. So we'll see him in the pits fairly soon, but I mean, unless he knows that the rain is coming sort of imminently, I feel like he's got to get himself in the pits, get on a set of super softs, and just start absolutely reeling these guys in. Just, you know, drive very aggressively, use every single inch of track, get up close and personal with the walls, and really start going for it, because at the moment he's not really pulling away from them very much, and he's going to have, every lap he leaves it, he's got less time to close that gap on fresher tires. So if I were Dubsy, unless he knows that the rain is coming very, very soon, he needs to get in the pits right now.
No doubt about that, and there's been some pit lane action as we see Jordan, who's 3 laps down, currently running in P12 in the Red Bull. He pitted for the super soft tyres, but we are getting to a point now with roughly 11 laps to go, that this might be hurting Dubsy a little bit. We mentioned he could have come out around P5, P6 on brand new super soft tyres with the chance to run all the way to the end. But of course, if that rain is going to come along with 10 laps to go, there is that changeover period too, isn't there, Curly, where going from dry to wet, and you've got to be very, very picky, and you've got to choose the exact moment of when to change over to the wet weather tyres, or in fact the intermediates, when that rain does come. But at the moment though, he's sitting pretty out front, but he does have to make another pit stop there, and one has to say that he shot himself in the foot not going to the super soft tyres in that
Mazda getting quite close to Contrast. He has a little look down the inside. In fact, Contrast has run a bit wide there, and Maznat's going to try and go around the outside of the hairpin. Contrast fighting it back very, very hard, and in fact Maznat has lost the rear end of the car, and there we go. It's contact between the Ferrari and the Mercedes, and he does give that position back to Contrast, but now both drivers have got significant wing damage, and Maznat just getting that all wrong on the outside there. Just too much throttle, a little bit too aggressive. The rear of the car snaps on him, and that sends him into the contrast, and puts them both in the wall. Maznat missing, I think, a winglet on that right side. Contrast missing quite a lot of his front wing from, well, really from both sides. That's dropped them 4 seconds back from VTI, and now they have a very difficult decision. Do they pit for some ultra softs and put themselves further back in the field, or do they try and hold on? Contrast is really, really struggling at the moment. You can see him just understeering significantly through these slow corners, and I think he's got to go for the pits. But yeah, the question is, when is this rain going to come? We made it 22 laps in. We've not seen any sort of hint of it yet. Do they pit? Contrast? No, they both actually stay out. That's interesting. And Maznat's going to go straight clean past Contrast down into turn 1. I think Contrast, you got to get in the pits, buddy. You're losing a lot of time with his front wing damage, and you can see him just struggling through the first complex here. He's got absolutely no front end grip on this Mercedes, and he is losing time hand over fist. And look at that, Maznat is just sailing off. Maznat's got wing damage, and now he's got to be worried about his teammate MLJH. We'll see if there's any sort of team orders here, but MLJH has closed in what was a fairly large gap before. It's only half a second now as Contrast goes straight on at turn 7, and MLJH goes through. So now he's up into 4th, and he knows that, well, he doesn't know, but we know that the cars in front of him have got wing damage, so this is starting to look pretty good for MLJH, and Dubsy yet to pit. So yeah, I mean,
it was such a heavy impact, wasn't it, with the wall? Like you mentioned, pure Contrast and Maznat, they'd been threatening that. Maznat was just biding his time, wasn't he, Curly? And then he just went for that move. And that's what you have to do around here with passing. So difficult. You just have to find a gap and commit and go for it. But pure Contrast, you'd have to say now he has to come in, and he hasn't got too many other options. He's let his teammate by. He didn't put up too much of a battle, but he has to make a pit stop here for the ultra soft tyres if he's going to have any chance of still finishing in this in the top 5 in this Singapore AOR Grand Prix. And I can tell you one thing now, Dubsy's still sitting pretty as he comes through to complete lap 23. Are they some rain? Is that raindrops I see on my screen?
I'll tell you what, that is the rain starting here on lap 23 in Singapore, and this is what those guys are waiting for with the damage. Yep, Contrast stays out. They're waiting to put on some intermediate tires, but it doesn't look like it's falling very heavily so far. And now Dubsy, well, how are his tires going? He's been on them for at least 14 laps now. They've got to be getting up towards the end of their life. You can see actually that gap between him and VTI is starting to come down a little bit. It was 8.8 seconds a few laps ago. It's now 6.7, and this is VTI on some fairly worn softs with half a front wing, is actually closing that down. So Dubsy's tires are really, really past it at this point. He's just hoping and praying that that rain starts to fall heavily. But yeah, it's starting to come down a little heavier now, but it's still just is basically sprinkling. If it stays like this, it's going to be a long time before we get to actual intermediate conditions. So for drivers like Dubsy, for Contrast, for maybe Maznat as well, they've got to be hoping and praying that this rain just starts to really fall. Whereas for guys like VTI and MLJH, for them, well, they want it to change inters as late as they possibly can.
Like we said, Curly, it's that changeover period. The rain not heavy enough for the crossover and the change to intermediate tyres, and if so, you're just going to lose too much time, aren't you? So you're better off, despite having wing damage and very worn tyres, you're better off staying out until that crossover point comes where you can make a pit stop and it is wet enough. As Dubsy coming through the last corner now, the 5.5 seconds, he's coming in, Curly. He's made the call. So into the pits comes Dubsy from the lead of this race, and the Ferrari mechanics out in the pit lane, and he's going on the intermediate tyres. Intermediate tyres for Dubsy now, lap 24 out of 31, and well, you have to say, is it wet enough?
I would say no.
The
track still looks fairly dry to me. I don't think it's quite there yet. We've also got loaf meat on the intermediate tyres, but yeah, I don't know, this just seems a little bit too early. The rain is falling, but it's really just sprinkling, and yeah, I'm not exactly convinced that this track is wet enough yet for the intermediates. And we can see now on board with Dubsy, he's having quite a lot of trouble getting that getting the throttle down. So yeah, Contrast has actually just gone past him, and we can see here Contrast is pulling away on those super soft tires, and actually here comes Excalibur. He's gone straight past Dubsy as well, so Dubsy losing 2 positions out of the pits. You can see, Excalibur actually running very, very deep. Conditions catching him out a little bit, and actually the rain is coming down a little bit more now. Dubsy is holding on to the back of these two, not quite. It's just still slick conditions, but it's going to be going to inters soon, and getting the right moment to pit here is absolutely crucial because it's such a long lap. If you get stuck out in sort of the second sector in this circuit on a set of slicks in wet conditions, you're going to be in a whole world of trouble, as we do have some yellow flags in sector 3. I don't know who that's for. Have a little look around. Oh, it's Dynamite, and he's actually retired from the session. He was running in a point spinning position, but he's lost more of his wing and he's actually just retired. Not quite sure what that's about, but yeah, we'll see if the leaders are going to make a move towards the pits. VTI, no, he stays out. VTI is going to carry on with these soft compound tires. Now Maznat and MLJH, this is the pair behind them. They're both in the podium positions at the moment. Are they going to look to make a move? Bars, if you could just let me know what Dubsy's sector time, his middle sector time perhaps on this lap, is compared to these leading drivers, because he seems to be dropping off the back of the likes of Prying Stingray still fairly significantly. In fact, he's losing quite a lot of time here. Excalibur as well, he's caught up to the back of Contrast, and look how much more grip he's got with that full front wing. Actually, he's not even got a full front wing, but he's got a lot more grip than Contrast does. He's going to have a look down the inside, but he's not quite late enough on the brakes. Actually goes across that first apex and cuts the corner and grabs himself a 3-second time penalty, and this is opening up an opportunity for Prying Stingray. I do also know that the harder compound tires generally deal a little bit better with these sort of middling conditions in the softer compound, so Prying Stingray in a good position here. He's right behind this pair in front of him, Excalibur and Contrast, as they come down towards turn 7. Excalibur is going to go for a move down the inside on Contrast. Everything heating up here. We got front wing broken. I believe that's Prying Stingray's. He makes a little bit of contact with Contrast. Excalibur has just lost a position to Prying Stingray as well. Stingray going around the outside of him there, and yeah, Dubsy really struggling at the moment. So I think Dubsy might well have thrown away this race win. He's going absolutely nowhere on these intermediates.
Well, unless he gets...
Prying Stingray and Contrast side by side through the bridge. Stingray is up past Contrast. Beautiful move. That was very bold, trying to make an overtake through there, but he has gotten the job done. Stingray up into 4th. He is absolutely flying. Contrast is just really struggling. He'll be looking for the pits, I think, this lap.
No doubt about that. And Dubsy's just not quick enough, is he? The rain is not falling heavy enough as our leader is in. Our leader from this race, VTI, finally making the decision that it is too wet to be on the super soft tyres. And they're also pretty worn super soft tyres. So he pits from the lead. He's 12 seconds ahead of MLJH. Boy, hasn't he come into the race in the latter stages. So off
Oh,
go
Maznat's in the pit
softs.
wall. Maznat's put his car in the pit
Maznat
wall.
is out of this race. Maznat has collided with the pit wall. It can happen, can't it, Curly, in these changeable conditions. He was coming in to put on the intermediate tyres, and what a mistake. Well, that's the end of his race. So that Ferrari out.
Oh, that is an absolutely gutting mistake to make. It's a difficult pit entry. It's going to be very slippy in these conditions, and he's just understeered into that wall there. Maznat will be furious with that. He had an opportunity in this race to gain some points in Dubsy, maybe take the championship lead, but he's throwing that away now. We've got MLJH. He's still out there on these super softs. He's looking very, very twitchy coming through the middle sector there. Prying Stingray has stayed out on the softs as well. VTI's actually had time to pit and come back out in second place. Excalibur, he's decided to continue onwards, but we've had Dubsy in the pits. Contrast just coming out of the pits on the intermediate tyres. As Nemo has retired from the session, he's in a wall. Where is this? That is that's at the bridge. He's gone straight on the intermediates, and he is out of this race as well. This is going to give an opportunity for those guys who are maybe looking a little bit out of luck at the start of this race, the likes of Loaf Meat and Infinite March. They're going to get some strong points here with the mistakes from Nemo and Maznat. We've also had a move. VTI is trying to get past, sorry, Prank Stingray is actually getting past VTI. Prank Stingray is on this soft tires. He was 2 seconds behind VTI, and VTI's actually broken his wing. Do you know if he fixed that in the pits? Did he get his wing changed, or did he come out with the... Well, I'm not sure what's happened there. It looks similar to the damage he had before, so VTI may have not actually gotten that wing changed in the pits, or perhaps it's just run into a wall that I've missed. But, yeah, I don't think he's gotten his wing changed. And Prying Stingray, he's on the soft compound tires, and despite the rain on our screens, despite the track looking pretty damp, those soft tires still look faster. MLJH continues on for another lap. Prying Stingray, he continues on for another lap. So actually, yeah, these slick tires are still coping with these conditions a little bit better now.
I've just got to, sorry to interrupt you there, MLJH, that lead 15 seconds. You said those super soft tyres are still going along quite swimmingly at the moment, if you pardon the pun, but the Mercedes, he just got it all wrong there, Curly, coming out of the second corner, but you have to feel for Maznat and Nemo. It went from one to Daniel Kvyat very quickly, you'd have to say. That's unfortunate for them as we ride on board with the Mercedes. Now that gap, Curly, 14.4 seconds with just 4 laps to go. But he's looking very, very nervous at the moment, the Mercedes driver. Boy, has the race come to him, but can he hold his nerve in these changeable conditions? What an exciting and enthralling, fantastic end to this AOR Singapore Grand Prix. It was looking a little bit dull and boring, you'd have to say. It was a little bit of a procession before the heavens opened and gave us a fantastic final 10 laps of this race. And Prying Stingray on the soft tyres, but VTI 2.1 seconds behind him, Curly, and not managing to make any inroads with 4 laps to go.
Well, there's the DRS disabled, and that's been the sort of typical turning point in Codemasters games to say get in the pits for some inters, and we know the VTI has this wing damage as well. Also does Prying Stingray, so yeah, I mean, all of the front trio carrying some kind of damage. The first person with a full front wing is actually Dubsy, but yeah, for these guys, Prying Stingray is now starting to lose a fairly considerable amount of time to VTI. He's got to get himself in the pit, surely. We'll see if MLJH goes to the pit lane. They're losing such a huge amount of time to those intermediate runners behind them, and MLJH does go for the pits. We'll see if he's able to get his car in the pit lane. Oh, big twitch there. Really struggling to control it, but he does manage to make it into the pit lane. Prying Stingray, he's going to go for the pits as well, and that will promote VTI back up into the race lead on those intermediate tires. He's looking very, very strong at this point. He's only got 3 laps to go here in Singapore. Sorry, 4 laps to go in Singapore. And now we'll see where MLJH comes out in relation to Dubsy, who is absolutely herring around that final corner. And MLJH is going to be behind Dubsy, so it's VTI in first, Dubsy in second, MLJH will be in third. Excalibur is on the intermediate tires. It's a glitch on my screen showing the ultras. It definitely is the intermediates. But yeah, I mean, MLJH has now got himself a brand new front wing. Prank Stingray actually choosing not to have that wing changed. He didn't want to lose the time, or either he had the option set on the wrong setting, because I do know that if you have your wing change set to auto, it will actually only change it if you have red wing damage. If it's yellow or orange or light green, the pit crew will not change it, even though you can be losing multiple seconds a lap. So you've got to make sure that you got that setting on yes before you hit that sort of pit limiter line. But yeah, right now things may be quieting down a little bit after those pit stops have been made. But I suppose really the sort of question is, will VTI be able to steer this home? He is 11 seconds ahead of Dubsy, but he is missing a bit of his front wing, although he's not really losing too much time to Dubsy at the moment.
Yes, if you want some action, just add water. There's no doubt about that. We saw that in the real-life Singapore Grand Prix. Wet start to the race, and it wasn't good for the Ferraris. But we counted Dubsy out a few laps ago, Curly, but he's come back into proceedings here. He went a bit early for the intermediate tyres, and he was dropping back through the field, but he's managed to come back through into second place, and currently 11.17
Oh, sorry, I'll cut you off here.
behind.
Excalibur has made a mistake coming through the bridge section. He's lost his entire front wing, and Contrast takes that position. Contrast up into 5th. Excalibur, I think he might need to pit again. I mean, he's got Loaf Meat not too far behind. Well, there's Loaf Meat a lap down on Excalibur. He might be, actually. I'm not quite sure. I think he is a full lap down on the 6th place. So for Excalibur, I think he's got to get himself in the pits, because that thing is yeah, that thing is steering more like a boat than a Formula 1 car. He's got absolutely nothing on that front end, really. Yeah, you can see that on the off-board shot, where there really is just the nose of the car. Is he going to carry on with that amount of damage? He is, as he runs wide through the final corner twice, actually. He's really struggling with that. He's decided to carry on for the final 3 laps. That's a bit of a strange decision, I'll say, to be honest. He's losing a huge amount of time.
Well, the important thing here is, Curly, as we head into the last couple of laps of this Singapore AOR Grand Prix, and what a fantastic race we've seen, is these drivers, they've got to tread so carefully through these final couple of laps in these wet conditions. They've got to almost drive like there's an egg under the accelerator pedal, as Martin Brundle would say, because one mistake, one false move, you can slightly outbrake yourself. Next thing you know, you're heading straight to the scene of the accident. But VTI now 10 seconds ahead, and you'd have to say, Curly, barring any mistakes, he looks to have this one wrapped up, but no doubt Dubsy will be keeping him honest into the final couple of laps of this Grand Prix. And it appears that Excalibur, well, he's staying out, and I think Loaf Meat, who's made 5 pit stops in this race, and the Renault is behind him in P7, but Excalibur, he's not going to gain anything or lose anything. He's sort of in no man's land there as he comes across the bridge. You'd have to say it's been rather unfortunate for him, as we ride on board with VTI then coming through to complete lap 29 into lap 30. Just 2 more laps, this one and 1 more to go. And that lead staying at a steady 10.2 seconds. It's dipped under 10 now, 9.9. And further back, MLJH 999 in the Mercedes. Boy, hasn't he had a good race coming up into P3. We didn't mention him too much in the opening laps, as Loaf Meat in the Renault gets a 3-second time penalty, multiple warnings for corner cutting from race control. Things beginning to settle down now a bit, Curly, but what a fantastic Grand Prix we've had here at Singapore.
Yeah, it's been a good one. Lots of interest in this race. I'm sure we'll have well, plenty from the drivers after this event. But now we've got Loaf Meat flying up behind Excalibur. He goes straight past, but the position doesn't change because Loaf Meat was a lap down on Excalibur. But of course he is able to overtake if he's faster, which I think is pretty clear, and as long as he can pull away from the blue flags, he'll be fine in terms of that. I mean, Excalibur is losing such a huge amount of time with this damage that yeah, I'm really not sure why he didn't go for the pits. Strange decision, but he is carrying on. He's losing multiple seconds a lap. I think he's, well, Contrast passed him, I think it was this time last lap, and has pulled 11 seconds on him. So yeah, Excalibur finding it very tough at the moment. But yeah, I mean, with Loaf Meat, he was in such a poor position earlier on. He's, I think, multiple laps down on the leader, but yeah, he's going to find himself in 7th place, and that really shows that, you know, no matter what happens early on, you know, no matter what sort of your pace looks like or whatever incidents you have in those opening laps, just keep going at it, because he's going to pick himself up some solid points here today from what was probably a pretty frustrating race.
No doubt about that, Curly. And, well, 5 pit stops for Loafmeat, but he's currently about 2 minutes behind Excalibur. But it is exactly spot on what you're saying. Is oh, there's a car gone off there in the final sector. If we can just get, looks like a Renault. Speaking of Loafmeat, I think it might have been him. But if you can just keep all 4 wheels and tyres pointing in the same direction, and especially in these changeable conditions, you're more than likely to get a good result. Keep your nose clean, no penalties, no damage, and get a good result in a race such as this. But VTI, 8.4 seconds. Dubsy has managed to cut the gap back to the leader, but it looks like it's going to be the McLaren Honda who is going to come home and take victory in this chaotic Singapore Grand Prix. Fantastic to have your company throughout the course of this 31 laps. What an intriguing, eventful and unpredictable race. And we've had everything. We've seen rain, crashes, accidents. And Dubsy will come home in P2, and you'd have to say, considering the pace he showed, he set the fastest lap of a 140 earlier on in proceedings when it was dry. He'd be fairly disappointed with his race today.
Yeah, I think so. I think that decision, one, to go for the ultra soft, so that second stint, but also to pit on the lap that he did. Now, we don't know what his tyre wear was. He may have been right on the very edge of a puncture, but that probably cost him the win here today. He lost so much time on those couple of laps on those intermediate tyres. He must have lost about 10 seconds. So yeah, he would have been right up there competing with VTI, who has had, you've got to say, a really stellar drive today despite the wing damage. He's just kept himself clean. He's done everything that he needs to do. And he is coming through the final sector, the penultimate corners now, and he will come around the final corner to win the Singapore Grand Prix, as he's quite cautious across the line. But VTI takes the win here. Dubsy is going to come home in 2nd place, maybe a little bit disappointing after the pace that he showed. He actually only finishes 3/10 behind VTI from penalties. Wow, that was much closer than what we thought it was. MLJH, he finishes in 3rd place. Excellent result for him. Prying Stingray now rounds the final corner in his Force India, and he will take P4 as we see the fireworks going off. That is incredible. The brightest fireworks that I've ever seen on a Contrast's view there. And Contrast actually jumps Prying Stingray due to Prying Stingray's penalty, so Contrast goes P4, Stingray's in 5th. And now we've got Excalibur lacking that front wing. Sorry, hold on. We've got Loafmeat in front of Excalibur, so Loafmeat will come around. You know, those fireworks really do look ridiculously bright on my screen, but Loafmeat comes around for P7. Excalibur grabs P6 here, and I believe the final finisher on track will be Infinite March in P8. He has a lap down here, but he will get the full points. VTI saying in a message that he was disconnected, but it doesn't matter. He'd already crossed the line by that point. At least it showed on my screen. So Infinite March, our final finisher there, and that really just shows for those guys that had, you know, guys like Loafmeat and Infinite March, really tough starts to the race. They fell a long way back. They're going to pick up some solo points here.
No doubt about that. And what about Dubsy? 0.3 of a second after 31 laps in changeable conditions here at the Marina Bay Circuit in Singapore. It all came down to just 0.3 of a second, including time penalties, as we see the McLaren Honda of VTI taking the winner's trophy, and boy won't he be happy as the champagne comes out. Dubsy spraying the champagne. He'll be happy, but no doubt would have been looking for more from this race. He dominated the early stages, but across the 31 laps, it was VTI and the McLaren Honda taking victory here in the AOR Singapore Grand Prix. There we go. The final results on your screen then. The McLaren taking the victory. Dubsy in 2nd. MLJH joining him on the podium for Mercedes AMG Petronas. Pure Contrast as well. So the two Mercedes-Benz cars finishing 3rd and 4th. Good result for Prying Stingray in 5th. Excalibur in 6th, electing to stay out after that damage. Loafmeat in 7th. the last of the runners along with Infinite March, Jordan and the rest DNFing. What a race it has been, Curly.
Yeah, very interesting race. They're difficult decisions, sort of strategy-wise, when that rain started to come down. Picking the right point to go onto those intermediate tires, absolutely crucial at such a long circuit like this. And yeah, for those that went a little bit earlier, they found themselves in trouble, namely Dubsy. What we'll do now is we will send some invites to our podium sitting drivers, and we'll do a little podium interview. And with that, we'll just ask them how the race went and whatnot. So the screen will go blue while I invite the podium sitters, but we'll be back in just a minute. Okay, I will just ask now. Do any of you guys have MLJH on your friends lists?
I don't have him, but maybe we can message him in the chat here.
Okay, we do have two of our podium sitters in at the moment. We're just waiting to get our third place sitter MLJH in, and then we can start the podium interviews. Okay, I'm not sure if I've got some sort of issue here, but I can't seem to find MLJH. So I think for right now we'll just get our podium interviews kicked off with our leading two drivers. Obviously start off with our winner here, VTI. Tough race. I want to go back to qualifying straight off the bat. Well, I will just before we start answering questions, just ask both of our podium sitters to make sure their microphones are on, allowed to be shared, so that the stream can hear your answers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, sweet. So yeah, let's head back to qualifying. I want to ask you, how do you think that went? I mean, we saw you had some fantastic pace in terms of one lap pace in Monza. You weren't quite able to put together the final lap there, but yeah, P3 today. You were a few tenths off the likes of Dubsy and Maznat. I mean, how would you rate that qualifying performance?
It was about average, to be honest. I think the guys generally had better one lap pace than me around here. I'm struggling to try and get the car quickly over one lap. Like, I was always getting sort of mid to the high 37s was the best I was getting anyway. So I don't think I could have done a 37.4. So I think Dubsy was just quicker today.
And we'll just go into that sort of opening point of the race. It was very, very clean through the opening lap between all of the sort of front runners. And then you were tucked up behind Maznat for a little while, but looked to have much better pace. I mean, it took a while to get past. Thoughts on overtaking at this track? Were you worried you were going to get stuck there, or did you have the confidence that you'd get past eventually?
It just requires a lot of patience. You just have to. I could see he was struggling with his rear end a little bit, so I just needed to make sure he made a combination of mistakes in the corner that would give me an opportunity. So that's what I was looking for, because trying to break up the inside, as Dubsy witnessed in the practice session that we did, doesn't work too well, and I'm try to keep my nose clean compared to the last race. So just patience. I knew I'd better pace in the opening stint at least. Yeah, just had to. I think it was around turn one he slipped a little bit wide, so I just tried to position my car as well as I could for the next sequence of corners, and it was a good battle.
Yeah, I mean, then in that sort of the latter half of that second stint, oh, I'm getting a really, really big echo off of someone's microphone.
So I'm gonna turn it down.
Might be better just for the other two guys in the lobby to mute their mics at the moment. Or if you are watching the stream, then make sure that you have the volume and that turned off. But yeah, once you got past Maznat there, you look to have maybe a little bit of pace on Dubsy in front of you. That gap was coming down. It wasn't too quickly, just a couple of tenths a lap. But yeah, I mean, Dubsy then pitting fairly early on. Did that surprise you? Were you expecting drivers to pit that early, or did you think that, like, did you have any questions going on there? Did you know that something was up perhaps straight away with his early pit stop?
I think I saw a yellow flag come up on the screen, and it mentioned that, and I saw some damage beside the track. So I'm not sure if Dubsy had a little bit of contact with the barrier or something on the way into the pits, but I noticed I wasn't far behind him when he was approaching the pit entry. So maybe he had a bit of damage that caused an early stop. But I'm not sure if that was his strategy.
Yeah, so we do know that he had some damage there. So yeah, he made that earlier stop and came out on the ultra soft. When you saw him out on the ultra soft tires after you made your pit stop, what was going through your mind then? Was that the point that you maybe realised that you were in the box seat for the win?
It was going to rain, so it wasn't really sure how quick the rain was going to happen. So if the rain tied in with the time like the time his ultrasofts are worn, he'd have the wind sewn up. So it was still a little up in the air, and I had some pressure from contrast there in the middle stint. As I came on my outlap, I think I had a little tag with Banana Josh, and I clipped some on my wing. So when I was lapping him, so I'm not sure what happened there. I'll have a look at the video when I went back, but yeah, base contrast and Maznat were all over me for a long time, and I knew it was crucial not to let contrast by, because he was on the super soft and had a lot of pace in the middle stint, and there wasn't really a lot I could do to keep up with them. And same with Dubsy, they were going very quick, so just waiting for the rain to arrive and hope for the best. I kind of thought maybe I'd lost the race at one point, because the rain was going to come, but didn't know how quickly it was going to arrive.
Okay, I am going to make the screen blue again just to get MLJH in the party, and then I'll let buyers have a few questions at you. So just one moment. Okay, that invite is now sent. Byers, do you have any questions for our winner, VTI?
I actually have one question. VTI, congratulations, first of all, on a fantastic result. Tell me, how do you maintain your focus with changing conditions, bits and pieces of carbon fibre, drivers going off around you? How do you stay focused in a race as eventful as that?
Just try and focus on your driving. Concentration is everything around Singapore. Um, Try not to overstep your mark. I think everyone's got very good one lap pace, but I think during the race people are generally a little bit slower than what they could be. Generally, just giving a margin of error for braking, margin of space for every time you go through, particularly in sector 2 and 3. It's very easy to clip your front wing there. So just a matter of backing off maybe from full pace and just try and be consistent. And if it's good enough, then you'll be lucky.
And looking ahead, just one more question. Looking ahead to next week, obviously we continue the Asian rounds. What are you looking? I mean, this will give you tremendous confidence, obviously, with a fantastic win tonight. Or today, and looking ahead to next week, where do you think the package will be heading into the Malaysian Grand Prix at Sepang?
It'll be just the same as everywhere else, really. Just practice, prepare a little bit for the race, try and work out a race strategy, work out what's going to be the quickest. Obviously, lots of guys practice on time trial. It's always a great way to benchmark yourself. So if I can keep the race pace I've had for the last couple of races, I'll be happy. I think the Mazna and Dubsy in over one lap are probably a bit quicker than me at the moment. So try and work on that for the next race.
Well, VTI, fantastic result yet again. Congratulations, mate, and all the best for yourself and next week, heading forward into the next round.
Thank you very much.
Alrighty, Byers, I'm going to let you have first shot at our second place sitter, Dubsy.
Dubsy, first of all, congratulations. Probably not the result you were hoping after a stunning lap in qualifying. But tell us about that decision early on in the race. You elected to start or make your first pit stop and elect to go on to the ultra soft tyres, which was very surprising given that there was that opportunity or that chance of rain coming later in the race. With everything else happening around you, tell us a little bit about that decision and first of all your result tonight.
First of all, it wasn't really my decision because I don't know what Banana Josh is doing parked across the track. He's just parked across the track, not moving his car, and I broke my wing and had to as soon as I broke my wing, I was locked to the ultra softs, so I couldn't change it. My initial plan was to go ultras onto supers, and if there was got the live comms of when I broke my wing, that would have been great, but extremely disappointing. I'm going to be completely transparent and say I would have won that race if it wasn't for that, because I knew I had the pace, and I would have. And when the inters came on, I really didn't have an option to pit with the right strategy, as my ultras were pretty much going to puncture if I didn't pit when I did for the ultras. So yeah, really disappointing that backmarkers need to ruin it, but I don't know.
I guess, like we mentioned, we did see on the live commentary, like you mentioned, you'd pit earlier for the intermediate tyres. Was that a gamble that you had to take, considering the damage and the incident you had with Josh a little bit earlier on in the race?
No, the incident with Josh was before the pit stop, so I fixed my wing after that. The only reason why I pitted early with the incident is because if I didn't, I probably would have punctured my ultra softs. As yeah, like I said, they were when I wanted to pit. The engineer was like, "Oh, we got an alternate strategy for you." So they put me on the ultra softs, and I couldn't really do anything about it. It was just blacked out, the tyre selection screen. So, yeah.
And just one final question too, Dubsy. What positives can you take from tonight's race? You did mention it was a disappointing result. You did say you believe you could have won it, but what positives can you take out of tonight's result? P2 heading into Malaysia, a track which you're traditionally very strong at on this game and in previous games. Do you think you can perform well next week?
Yeah, I'm probably looking, obviously, to win again. I mean, I don't know. I'm just disappointed about tonight because I know there's a few tracks coming up that are very wheel dominated, and I know VTI is on the wheel, so it's going to be very hard. And I knew tonight I needed to get the points, so yeah, I guess Malaysia's pretty even, but he's got the likes of USA, Japan, and all that, which are very wheel-dominated tracks. So yeah, it's only going to get harder.
And just a quick word before we let you go tonight, Dubsy, on your teammate Maznat. He was sticking with the back of that pack with BTI as well as Contrast, but he hit the pit wall at the exit or the entry to the pit lane,
Yeah.
and a tragic way to end his race, you'd have to say, in your in the sister Ferrari.
Yeah, I saw that coming around. I was almost did that myself when I was gonna, because I thought I was when I was pitting, I made a final decision just to play it safe and go on the ints early because of the um all the wear I had on my tires, and I almost did the same thing. So yeah, unfortunate.
Well, bad luck tonight, Dubsy, but still second place and a podium finish nonetheless. Congratulations once again, seeing you next week in Malaysia. Well
Thanks.
done, mate.
Yeah, I'll just hop in with one sort of a championship related question for Dubsy here. A frustrating race tonight. You look to probably be the quickest driver on the circuit this evening. I think that's fair to say. But obviously your teammate Maznat coming away with no points here, that will extend your championship lead at the moment. So I think there are some positives there. Would you say that out of the drivers on the grid, would you think you're the favourite for the championship? I mean, you're leading at the moment. Would you say that you're the most likely to take it at the end of the season?
Um, I'm not sure. All I really focus is on winning the race. I guess race by race, just trying to win that. And if I win the championship, so be it. I'm not really. That's probably one of my downfalls, is always trying to win every race and not try and think about the positive. Like, sure, I extended my championship lead. I guess that's a positive, but I'm not really looking at that as opposed to I just want to win the race, to be honest.
Kind of the Nico Rosberg mindset. It did work for him in 2016, so perhaps it'll work for him. Work for you this season. But yeah, congratulations tonight. Tough race, but coming away with 18 points after what happened in your race, I think is pretty solid. We will move on to our third place sitter, MLGH now. MLGH, can you just make sure that your microphone is set to allow to be shared in the party settings?
Yeah, it's working.
Awesome stuff. So, P3. I mean, was that kind of, especially from the first stint and the midpoint in the race, are you maybe a little surprised to end up on the podium here tonight?
Well, when in that period, but when it was like in between dry and intermediate tires, the dries were a bit quicker, so I sort of drove into the wall, and I probably could have won and stayed out on the dries at the end there. I had that much of a lead.
Do you think now that it was a mistake, perhaps, to pit that final time for the intermediates?
I destroyed my left-hand end plate on my wing, so I was losing a hell of a lot of time throughout the whole lap.
So it's really more so the wing damage that pushed you into that pit stop for the Inters then?
Yeah, it definitely was.
Yeah, it would have been, I don't know, it would have been, I think, a pretty bold move to stay out on them. Big gamble, but it might have paid off if you had that full wing. It did get quite wet there at the end, but that would have been interesting to see. I think a very sort of solid race for you all round. Other drivers kind of in front and around you making mistakes and having incidents, and you kept it pretty tidy throughout the race. I mean, going on to Malaysia. What are your hopes for that race there? Because you are sat, looking at your results so far, you're sat third in the championship. You've had, 2 third places, a fourth, and a fifth. It's been very consistent so far. Do you think you continue that at Malaysia, or maybe even make some further steps up the podium?
I don't know. I'm just aiming to finish every race and not get many corner cutting penalties, because I'm not very good at this. I'm very much a beginner compared to these top guys, such as VTR and Dubsy.
Well, you've been doing a very good job of keeping up with the likes of VTI and Dubsy and a couple of the other drivers as well so far this season. So yeah, congratulations for that, and well done on getting to the podium here tonight. It was a really solid race from yourself. Bars, do you have any questions for our third place hitter, MLJH?
First of all, congratulations, MLJH. You've done a fantastic job. I guess you're a model of consistency, really, which is how you need to be. P3 tonight, P3 in the championship. If you can continue that consistency, like you said yourself, no corner cuts, no penalties, clean and 4 wheels pointing in the right direction. Do you think you're a chance to maybe continue these good results heading into the last little part of the season?
With the consistency, maybe. For the championship, I've got no chance compared to these top guys. Masnat's been incredibly unlucky. He'll probably come back towards the end. So, yeah, I'm just aiming to get maybe top 5 in the championship if I'm lucky.
Well, fantastic. Once again, congratulations. P3 in a chaotic race, mate. You did your best, and all the best for the rest of the season and indeed next week at Sepang.
Thanks, mate.
All right, so we'll conclude the podium interviews there. I'd just like to thank everyone watching for being part of this event as well. It was a really chaotic and interesting race. The late sprinkling of rain really changed things around. I'd also like to give a huge thank you to my co-commentator Byers, who's been fantastic. Very glad to have him on the commentary with us today. And we will wrap things up here. So if you've watched this and you're interested in getting involved, you can go and sign up for the Oceania League on the Apex Online Racing forums. Just head to the AOR F1 leagues and then to the PS4 section and then to the Oceania section, and you will find yourself you go to the Oceania section and then the PS4 section. I'll try not to send people in the wrong way. And you can find all the information that you need there in regards to sign-ups and getting involved in this. We do have some spaces still available, so make sure that you grab those as quickly as possible. And yeah, really interesting race here. If you're looking for more content, then we'll be on tonight for the European races. That will be on the Apex Online Racing channel. Make sure you go and subscribe over there for the Tier 1 races from the European leagues. That'll be at 8 p.m. UK time tonight. And we'll be back at the same time next week for the Malaysian Grand Prix. Byers, do you have any sort of final comments before we close things up here?
Look, just fantastic to be alongside tonight in what was a fantastic Singapore Grand Prix. The track always throws up some pretty surprising results, and tonight was no different. Big thanks to everybody who joined us for our broadcast, and hopefully I'll be back next week to call alongside you in Malaysia, Curly.
That would be an absolute pleasure. All right, so this has been round 4 in Singapore. We'll be back for round 5 next week. Thank you for joining us, and I hope you all have a good day.